lot for those books, but it felt like something was missing. It felt like we were treating low-income communities as if they lived in isolation from everyone else instead of being deeply connected to everyone. And so I thought, oh, I can. What about eviction? Eviction does that. If you write about eviction, you can write about landlords, you can write about social workers, you can write about tenants. And so that's how I got into it. And then I started going down the rabbit hole, and I realized, I was asking these basic questions like, okay, how many people get evicted every year? Like, no one knows. Like, okay, who's disproportionately affected? No one knows, unless you're in communities that are feeling the effect of that housing crisis. And so we had a lot of books on jobs, on welfare policies, the criminal justice system, but housing was this huge part of the puzzle that seemed to be missing.
Could you tell us a little bit about the research process for the book? I mean, I know a lot of people probably think of social scientists and mainly doing things like statistical analysis, but your process was a little bit different. How did you go about studying evictions?
There's kind of an impulse in me when I don't understand something or I want to understand it closer to kind of view it from the sidewalk level, to get close to it personally. And so I started this work the old-fashioned way. I moved into a mobile home park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I rented a trailer, and I lived in that trailer for about 5 months. And then I moved into a rooming house on the north side of Milwaukee and rented a rooming house. The north side is Milwaukee's segregated African-American community. And I lived in that rooming house for about 10 months. And from those two neighborhoods, just followed families getting evicted. And I went everywhere with those families. I went to eviction court with them. I followed them into abandoned homes and shelters. I watched their kids. I slept on their floor. Went to church with them, AA meetings, a lot of funerals, my first birth, and try to get a view of their life as much as I could. And then I try to do that with their landlords, and try to really get a view of their lives. I wanted to understand their perspectives as well. So I helped fix up their old toilets and went with them as they passed out eviction notices and collected rents. So that's kind of the foundation of Evicted. It started from the sidewalk level, and then it kind of collected a bunch of data about the eviction crisis that we just didn't have, kind of drawing from original surveys, eviction records, 911 records, basically anything I could get my hands on, and taking that big data and making it converse with the small data, my notebooks, the things I was learning on the ground every day, living in the mobile home park or on the north side of the city.
One of the things I've always found most powerful about your book, and I've taught it for a couple of years now in my classes, and the students always, they always respond better to your book than most of the things we read. And I think partly it's because of how powerful the stories are, because eviction for a household can be such a catastrophic event. Is there a typical story that really exemplifies what's at stake here with this crisis?
There's so many. I think that one of the saddest thing I think I saw in Milwaukee was I was spending time with a woman I call Arlene in the book. And when we met, she was a single mom. She was raising 2 young boys, and her rent took 88% of her income. Right, so you're living in that kind of situation. You don't need to make a big mistake to get evicted. I mean, you're so close to it every month. And she was spending some time with one of her friends, Trisha, and Trisha moved suddenly, and the movers came. And so you imagine this kind of scene where you're in a 2-bedroom apartment. There are all these kind of men just packing up things in black trash bags, and Arlene is running around trying to find her medication and the cell phone and the things you're going to need tonight, because you're suddenly realizing you're going to be homeless tonight. And then her 7-year-old comes home. He walked home from school. 7-year-old comes up into that scene. And I've got a 7-year-old now, right? If this happened to our family, he would ask a question. He would freak out. He'd be terrified. He would run to get his favorite toy or stuffy. But Arlene's kid just took in the scene, and he didn't ask a question, and he didn't cry. He just turned around and went outside to play. Mm-hmm. Because he's seen that scene before. And, if eviction has become normalized to children like that,
Yeah.
That's something I think the country should be incredibly embarrassed by.